Bid Nerds is your daily YouTube card game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Haggerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. Oh my gosh! We are sort of on time. I guess that's we'll call that on time. I mean, that's like 3 minutes. 3 minutes. We had the live show scheduled for December of 2024. I'm not getting audio in my cans. They're mental.
Don't know what to tell you.
Welcome everybody to the show.
Go to
Deeb. Beautiful Sunday night here in San Francisco. While my producer and creative director and partner and founder tries to get some audio into his cans, let me welcome everybody to the show. Thank you for joining us. We are super excited about tonight. I'm guessing there's no Wade this evening. Is that what's happening?
That is correct. Wade is, and you should be checking him out on Tech Daily because he's been given updates all this week from CES.
From CES, yeah. So this is like his Super Bowl, I would imagine, as an electronics guy. And the biggest electronics show in the country happens in his backyard, which is this week in Las Vegas.
I heard you.
So, Wade, we're missing you tonight, obviously. Look at the chaos without you in the studio. I hear that.
You hear that? Okay.
Yeah. So, anyway, JP, what do you say, man?
I don't know. Can you guys hear me? I'm not sure if... Because I've got,
we can hear you.
I can hear you guys in my cans, but I can't hear my mic in my cans.
But we can hear you through your mic.
And the levels are good. Please check the levels there, mental. Testing 1, 2.
Yeah,
sorry, guys.
fine.
Usually, okay, all right. Yeah. Well, then we'll just assume that. All right. Welcome to the show, everyone. Brand new episode of the Bid Nerds. All right, what we're gonna do on this show, like we do every week. Sorry, I'm getting feedback. That's because I have I've got my computer live here. It's a live show, guys. This is how it goes. It's a live show. Doesn't always go as smoothly as we would like. Look,
it never goes as smoothly as we like.
No, it does not. Once we get started, it's usually all right. But dang, just getting it off the ground. Excuse me. All right. What we do on the show is we make predictions and we pick cars from Cars and Bids, PCAR Market, Bring a Trailer, and more. And we make predictions on those cars, auctions. We will tell you all about those cars, and then we'll a bunch of expert types here, or wannabe experts, will give you their opinions on what we think will happen with those auction results. And then we go to the Nerd Herd, the Nerd Nation. The Nerd Herd is hanging out in the chat already, and that's where the real bids come in. That's where people who actually know what they're doing,
that's
people
where the
that
winners
should
hang
be
out
on the show. Yeah. So welcome you guys in the chat. We love seeing you guys here, and it looks like you guys are getting going already. So hey, while you're here, guys, I know you guys always do that. I know if you're in the chat, you've already hit the subscribe button. You've probably already hit the notifications button. But while you're sitting there looking at the TV right now, or looking at your screen, your iPhone, or however you're watching the show, can you please hit the like button, the little thumbs up real quick, or thumbs down? That's fine too. I mean, either one of those would be great. So click one of those like or dislike buttons right now. That really helps us a lot, and we'll get right to some predictions in just a second here. But first, a quick word about our friends at God and Porsche of Las Vegas from Michael Deeb.
God and Porsche of Las Vegas was the very first Porsche Classic partner in the United States. It's also the company in Las Vegas that brought JP and I together. So if you really don't like this show, you can blame them. But God and Porsche, as they were vetted by the experts in Germany to be the first Porsche Classic partner, they have the expertise in parts, they have the expertise in the service department, and they have experts who know your cars inside and out and can help buy and sell classic cars for you. So the folks at God and Porsche are amongst the best in the business when it comes to servicing or procuring or selling your classic Porsche. If you're interested in having your car serviced, if you're looking for an impossible to find part, or if you wish to buy or sell a classic Porsche, call God and Porsche of Las Vegas and tell them that the Bid Nerds sent you.
And we're trying to go live every Sunday and Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. And if you need if you need to check your watch, if you need to go like, what time is the show again? 6:30. And then once you actually show up to watch the show and we're not live yet, and you can go, okay, they're 3 minutes late, they're 5 minutes late, they're 20 minutes late. If you want to make sure your watch is on time, okay, go ahead. No, Deep, you have something to say. Hop in there, please. I'm just doing a sponsor promo. No big deal. Yeah. You've got something more important. Knock yourself out.
Absolutely. So the Bid Nerds go live twice a week, plus or minus 3 minutes twice a week. If you get your Swiss watch serviced at Hoursmith, it'll be plus or minus 1 second every month. So I'm just saying, as much as we think we're the experts in cars, Hoursmith is the expert in watches. Have your watch serviced at Hoursmith's.
That is correct. Nice queuing up the website there, Mental. Good job. All right. Did we say hello to Mental? Did Mental come on the screen yet? I don't even know. I've been screwing around with other stuff.
Is Mental there?
No.
Oh, hey.
Hey, look at that. Switcher Gary is here.
Yes.
The part of Mental will be played by Mental.
And actually, while we're here, because I get to do this, I get to add myself into the triple. Normally I get muscled out by Wade.
Yeah, look at that. Okay, I thought I was kind of thinking Buddha was going to show up tonight. Him and I went and saw the Ferrari movie last night. Thanks, Buddha, for hanging out.
He is in the herd right now. In fact, he and I today we're making plans for we're going to a race at the end of February.
Oh, nice.
John, what did you think of the Ferrari movie? Because it wasn't about racing.
Yeah, I love Michael Mann. There were lots of things about the movie that I really like, but the movie didn't really do it for me. I was a little bored. Yeah, it was neat, but it was boring.
It's a biop about an adulterer who happens to be one of the most popular and coveted men in Italy.
Yeah,
but the factual stuff like Di Portago hitting the pole and then killing the people, being severed in half, Sterling Moss's brake pedal breaking, like right down to the last detail. All that stuff was pretty factual. So it wasn't the car racing movie maybe we were all hoping for, but I thought it was a very good story about a very shrewd and cunning prick of a man who wound up becoming a legend,
Yeah, it's always tough when you have the protagonist isn't likable.
Right.
And it's one thing when you can create like an anti-hero, like a Tony Soprano, where they're a bad person, but you like him anyway. The portrayal by the actor was great. Everything about the cinematography, all the technical aspects, and yes, absolutely, on point from the historical point of view. But it just kind of felt like an excerpt to something. It was like, all right, we had this other thing, and then we kind of went off on a tangent. I'm like, okay. And then top it off, we had the back row behind us. We go in there, and Boot and I sit down. We're getting ready for the movie, and the movie starts, and there's just like these guys, like 4 or 5 guys behind us, speaking in Russian or Ukrainian. I don't know which one, and they're just having a conversation. It's not like they were like, when you go to a movie theater and there's some people that are like talking to the movie or talking about the movie or overreacting. Like, somebody does something in the movie and someone in the theater is like, oh no, he didn't. Or, oh my God, they won't shut up. But these guys are just talking about borscht or something. I don't know what the hell they were talking about. And they wouldn't everyone in the movie is like, shh, shut up, be quiet, shh. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Go to the bar. There's women there. Get out of here. And they finally shut up. It was stupid.
Take it to a living room. JP, I'm surprised you don't know enough Ukrainian to tell them to shut up in Ukrainian with like the right, dialect.
That's a good point. You'd think my grandparents or somebody would have told me to shut up in Ukrainian at one point or another.
But I do agree with the point that the Ferrari movie felt like it opened during Chapter 7.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's a very good point. But it wound up being like the most important chapter of his life, so they just did the story on that.
Fair enough. All right. Well, there it is. This is not a movie show. Go watch Nerdrotic or Critical Drinker or something like that if you want a movie review. This is the show that we knock off the Price is Right game show by making guessing the prices of cars. So let's get to. So what do we always do? We always start the show by going over the predictions that we made on the last episode and talking about just how poorly we did. Before we do that, anybody in the Nerd Herd other than Buddha see the Ferrari movie? Maybe we got some movie reviews.
Anthony Vieira did. I think Anthony Vieira saw it.
Just got back from it.
You just got back. Wow. Is anybody watching Bid Nerds in the movie theater while watching the Ferrari movie? That would be pretty cool. We don't recommend that unless you speak Russian and are part of the Russian mob or something like that. Mondial, the movie. David Van says.
Big shout out to Anthony Vieira, who obviously selected a movie time that would get him home in time to Bid Nerd. That is next level right there, Anthony. I saw what you did there. I see you. I see what you're doing there, Anthony. Good job, man. Welcome, welcome the punctuality. He's more punctual than, well, of course he does own a watch shop, but he's more punctual than we are.
The Idaho Syndicate really knows how to do it right. Jeez, they get their entertainment just lined up. All right. Okay, let's get to our predictions from the last episode. What's the first car that we screwed up on royally? What do we got?
We nailed this 2005 BMW 330 Ci with the ZHP package. This was a coupe with a manual and just 38,000 miles on Bring a Trailer. But wait, this bad boy is running at no reserve. So this seller is confident that his car meets all the criteria to bring a retail number, and he just pulled the goalie from the get-go and ran it as no reserve. JP and I applaud you on that. Not for the courage that it takes, but having the smarts to know that you'll actually get more money if you run your car at no reserve. That's a fact, but it's very difficult to explain it to people that don't understand. Am I right, JP, or am I right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So this guy ran this car. We all loved it. We know that the car is rare. John, I think you even took a stance that you might actually prefer a car like this over an E46 M3. For a number of reasons that make this car a bit more livable, a bit more easy to blend in, and just an all-around great driving car. Normally aspirated, and without further ado, I started the bidding at $29,000. JP, you really liked the car and came in at $35,046. Wade was just over me at $31,111. Those $111 will cost him later. And Mental between Wade and JP at $32,900. Do we have the Herds bids?
Yeah, Randy B just put them up. Looks like Randy was at 0533. Boy, I can't read that. 19.5. Anthony was at 27.5. Chris Carbine was 26.8. Kevin came in at 24.5. Yeah, everyone was really low.
Really
David.
Low. Anybody after Habib?
Jim was at 20 grand. Gerd said 21,650. Habib was 23 grand. Yeah, so yeah, everyone was low.
Everyone was low. So JP, everybody above me on the show was up. Our car sold. Where did I lose it? Our car sold for $30,000 on 30 bids. So I beat Wade to the finish line by his $111. That cost him from splitting the Yahtzee, or not splitting the Yahtzee, but splitting the win. But anyway, I got that one. John, all of our bids were right around that. It's interesting that the Herd, as a crudely grouped together, number, were much lower than us. But based on what we did in studio, so to speak, any surprises with that result, or is that kind of like what you thought? You obviously were anticipating maybe a little bit more money.
Yeah, I thought this car would get a run because we've seen E46s coming up pretty well. But I think, as usual, the non-flashy cars just fail to get there. The M car looks like an M car. This car really does kind of, to the uninitiated, look like a $4,000 Craigslist special. Yeah. I mean, it's just lease there's return, so many. Lease return. What are you talking about? There hasn't been one of these on a lease in 15 years, right? So these are the clapped out, total beater, E46s that you see all over the place with 400,000 miles on it. But there's something to be said for that. Having a car that flies under the radar but is really capable. Ask our good friend, Switcher Gary right here. He drives a Miata, and that thing, that thing is more flashy than this car. But this car will outperform that car in a big way. But both of them will kind of fly under the radar. What do you think, Mental?
Well, this is a great car, but outside of BMW circles, no one knows what it is. If you're not a BMW enthusiast, you're not going to know what the ZHP package is. And that's why the M cars go for more, because you don't have to be a BMW nerd. It's like turbo 911s versus lightweight 911s. And I don't believe that the BMW collector market has built up in the same way that you're seeing with Porsche and some of your rarer Mercedes. And then, of course, the Ferrari things. I think they'll get there, but this isn't it yet.
All right,
guys. What do you think of the results of this E46 BMW ZHP edition? Was that well bought? Is that the future? Is this the new normal for E46 BMWs? Are they coming up, or did this guy just make all the money in the world and he should run away to the bank with it? Let us know in the comments below, especially if you're watching this after the show's live. Michael Deeb, what else did we make a prediction on?
I have a question. What does ZHP stand for? Do you know?
I have no idea. Somebody, one of the nerds. I would think that that's a question for Sahan.
Okay, Sahan. What does it mean?
All right. High performance.
Okay, so Anthony picked for us this 1994 Porsche 911 Speedster with an automatic transmission and a few miles on the odometer that was listed last week on PCAR Market. The car's odometer was showing 67,800 miles, and Anthony endeavored to have me challenge JP to buy this car. Mental, we can hear you, just so you know.
Sorry.
It's okay, just so you know.
Keep talking.
So Anthony endeavored to have me challenge JP to buy this car, take the gearbox, the manual gearbox out of JP's 964 convertible, and swap them, keep this car, and then take JP's automatic equipped used 964 cab and then resell it on PCAR Market, thus gaining most of his money back. I don't think John is the one that bought it because it's still for sale. But let's go over the bids really quickly. One thing is for certain, we all thought it would not break $100,000, and then we all thought it would wind up in the deal tank for over $100,000 later. So with that in mind, I started the bidding at $68,000 and said that it would wind up, in the deal tank for like close to $140,000, and we all laughed. JP came in a little higher at $75,964. Wade said $80,000, and then Mental came in at $94,000, which was the highest bid of the group. All right, you want to cover those bids real quick? So I'm seeing Randy's at 99, Anthony was at 81, Kevin at 98. Let's see, Michael was at 95, Matt was at 85. Good job, Matt. David at 89,000, Jim at 92,000. So Jim's really good. And let's see, who else did we say? Jim. I think Jim might be the closest. So anyway, our car failed to sell at Hammer at $89,500 on 28 bids. It is in the deal tank where it remains available at $135,000. So John, there's a couple of aspects to unpack there. One for me personally, as I send it to you, getting to 90 grand in the natural auction, I'm actually impressed that it got to that money. And in fact, based on seeing $101,000 for that America Roadster out of Canada on cars and bids, I would lob it over to you and say, gosh, at $89,500, should they have taken the money? I'm almost inclined to think that in a down market in the dead of winter with an automatic and miles and not the original seats and not the original stereos, what are you expecting? Because 135 isn't what you're expecting. That's a pipe dream, and that's never going to happen. But 89 grand at 90,000, I think you're kind of all there. And then $135,000, that to me is laughable. The car's not worth that kind of money. Nobody's going to give them that kind of money. I understand if you want to post it for that just to solicit offers and begin your negotiation. But let's get real. The herd has already spoken and said that your car is not even worth 90 grand. So would you, JP, have recommended they take the 90 grand, or do you think there's more in it?
Yeah, I think there is more in it. I mean, this is definitely a Speedster is a more desirable car than an America Roadster, far and away. And so, I mean, yes, the America Roadster, I think had a few. It was probably like 40-something thousand miles if I remember correctly. So this being the more desirable car with 20,000 more miles than the other one, those two things should have equaled it out, which means this car should bring about $100,000. So, I think they were leaving a 10 grand on the table. I don't think this car is worth $100,000 to me personally, but it is certainly the kind of car that if that other one brought this much, this one should have. And I think at this point, if you're the seller of this car, I don't know why they went to PCAR Market is really the big question. Why didn't they just go to Cars and Bids? Because that number that we're talking about on the America Roadster was on Cars and Bids, which we don't always see big numbers for Porsches, but they are definitely climbing. Doug DeMuro is doing a better and better job all the time getting that right. And it's not like Cars and Bids is a long wait time. I guess maybe this seller, Wade last week after we did the show, he started digging around while we were still in the studio, and he found an ad by the selling dealer for the car. They were asking $159,000 for it before it went on the up for auction. So they dropped their price substantially down to $135 from where they were before. But if you think 135 was unrealistic, boy, 159 was totally ridiculous, because that's how much 5-speed ones, actual manual cars with far fewer miles and better condition are going for. That's the tops. So these guys, they're stuck with it till spring. I think that there's probably 10 grand to be made in this thing. Certainly does not fit at even at $100,000. That does not work out when it comes to the whole swap thing, swap it out for a manual deal. Which is, Anthony kept pinging me all week. You gonna buy that thing? You gonna buy that thing? You gonna buy that thing? And which I love his enthusiasm, and I love the idea. And if there was any reasonable chance that the car would have gone for $60,000, hell yeah, I would have done it. It was pretty obvious, especially after Wade had found the original ad for $159. It was like, they're not lowering that price that much.
I want to get Anthony a cattle prod that he can use on you. That's pretty funny.
Digital cattle prod. Mental, what do you think of the result of this thing?
Yeah.
Now that you're back in the seat.
Oh, just barely. I'm with the herd. Really, dude, you should have taken the money. I don't think this is owned by a Porsche enthusiast. I think this is owned by someone who...
It's a dealer.
Yeah, basically they're like, oh, we have one of 8. It's worth 80. It's worth all of the money because it's more rare, and they don't recognize that that's not how Porsche enthusiasts work.
Yeah, we've talked about it on other auctions. Sometimes when a dealer gets a specific car, they don't know anything about Porsches, but they know just enough to get them in trouble. They've heard, you've got a used car sales manager at the Stellantis store, and somehow they get something like this on trade-in, and they just look up 1 or 2 YouTube videos and they hear how crazy Porsches are, and they look up in the, if you look at KBB, right, or their little black book or any of that kind of stuff, none of these guides that the dealers use really acknowledge how different the values are when it comes to 3 pedals versus 2 on these cars. Even with the modern stuff, like none of them acknowledge it. If you go on KBB or NADA online, just the regular retail ones, the stuff that's available for Joe Schmoes, a lot of times they'll say that the manuals are worth less than the automatics because the automatics cost more in originally. So the information, unless you're an actual enthusiast, unless you're one of us nerds, and oftentimes sales managers at dealerships are not car nerds. They're just pencil pushers. They're just number pushers. They're bean counters.
Pushing 10, yeah.
Pushing 10. They could give a rat's ass if a car is a Kia or a Porsche or a Mini Cooper, right? They just don't care. They're just looking at numbers and books and sliding stuff around. And I can't tell you how many dealers I've been to that don't even know what Bring a Trailer is. Because I do.
Crazy.
It is, right? I mean,
That's
how many?
Crazy.
It's unbelievable in 2024 that any dealership that's worth anything can be operating without knowing that these auction sites are how prevalent they are. That just boggles my brain.
Outside of the pure volume of eBay, it's the greatest auction platform in the world, and easily the greatest auction platform in the world.
Well, and it's the greatest comp provider, right? I mean, if you're a used car sales guy, or if you're a used car sales manager and you're bringing in used cars, it's pretty easy to know how much a 2022, Kia whatever is worth, right? Because those are, you can pretty easily compare apples to apples. But you start getting into classic stuff or enthusiast stuff. Where do you go for that information? I just said that you can't get that info.
Mannheim is kind of where all the real, like Malcolm, Mac uses Mannheim, and there's a ton of data there. But those are all wholesale numbers. What you get with PCAR, with Bring a Trailer, is you're getting an entire database of retail numbers. Yeah, and that is valuable, especially
in real time too, because you can see when.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Anyway. All right. Well, what do you guys think of the results of this Speedster with 2 pedals? Do you agree with us that is an abomination from Porsche, that the car should not have even been built, and whoever bought this thing should have done the world a service and just driven it off a pier into the ocean, never to be seen again? Or do you think this is the perfect pleated pants PCA member guy who maybe doesn't have a left leg, and he's like, hey, I only have one foot and I still want to drive a really cool car? You're the only guy, look, if you're a veteran or something like that, you're the only person that has an excuse to drive this thing. And how awesome would that be if you're at the car show and you see the Speedster and you look inside and you're like, oh, 3 pedals, and then you look over and some guy with a mechanical second leg rocks up and you're like, okay, yeah, you're awesome.
That is hilarious. But I will say this: I race cars with gentlemen that are missing appendages, veterans. None of them would drive this car.
They're like, nope. Yeah. Even they wouldn't do it. All right. Well, let's move on. What was the next car we made a prediction on?
JP, my favorite car of all time, the 1986 Nissan 300ZX Turbo with a 5-speed manual. Mental picked this car for us, and we found out during the show that Mental's father used to work with Nissan or Datsun, probably back in the day. And so Mental has a soft spot for these cars. I don't know why. I thought Mental was a car enthusiast. But this car...
We know from the last episode. Hey, I'll just skip to Michael Deeb doesn't like this car. He's going to tell drink for the next... Every time he says he doesn't like it, it doesn't do anything for him. Yes,
71,000 miles, located in Orange City, Florida. Our car is on PCAR Market and was running with a reserve. So with that in mind, I was the low man on the totem pole, not my favorite car. So I said $12,000. JP came in over me at $15,300. Wade was the high bidder at $17,500. And then Mental came in between Wade and JP at $16,500. Now, there's a couple of numbers to unpack here. This is a little bit unusual. But before we get to those, Mental, do we have the herd's bids on the car?
Not yet. Randy is there. He is. Oh, yeah. Bam! Just threw it out there.
Randy,
Ask and Randy delivers.
Yeah. So let's see. So Randy was at 14. Anthony was at 16.5. Let's see. What am I looking for? That's a good number right there. Chris at almost 20. Kevin at 8. Another Michael at 12.5. David at 17,000. That's a good bid.
Hey, and Kevin was at $8,500. Is that it? Wait, how much did this go for?
Yeah.
Or how much? What was it? What did it actually get bid to?
Yeah. So
man, here's the thing. He was the closest one. Holy cow, that was close.
Yeah. So our car hammered at $8,750. So Kevin was $250 away from a Yahtzee on the front end. I'm the winner on the front end at $12,000 because I didn't like the car. But before we came live tonight, they sold the car by accepting an offer at $16,000, which would put Mental, who picked this car and actually loves it, right back in play for the win. Mental, you don't get credit for that. It's like a merit badge, like your parents are proud, but nobody else really gives a shit. So anyway, our car hammered at $8,750, where it failed to sell on just 7 bids. So before we get to the fact that they tripped the car for nearly, what am I doing here? $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 more. Let's talk about the fact that this car only got 7 bids. Is it because it's an unusual Nissan on, the guys who try to sell signs and supercars? Or is it just because 300Zs don't have that big a following? What's your reaction to the bid count, JP? Let's start with that.
Yeah, I mean, anytime. Look, bottom line is PCAR Market is trash in general, and I mean, let's be honest, right? And and the best they do, I mean, they do deliver sometimes on Porsches, but if you don't have a Porsche, this is not the platform. I don't know what the hell the seller was thinking putting this car on PCAR Market. This thing should have been on Cars and Bids. This had Cars and Bids all over it. Doug DeMuro would have liked this car. This is the kind of car. Did somebody say this before? Did we say this on the last episode? Did you say it, Mental?
Wade was like,
yeah.
I think we all agreed.
Doug would have done a video on it if he had seen this hit his platform, which would have given it all kinds of extra love. I still think, I bid low because of the platform. I think if this thing were on Cars and Bids or Bring a Trailer, this is a $25,000 car. That car is as nice as they come. So 16 grand. What's that?
So you think that it's entirely possible that the winning bidder at 16 grand could remarket this car,
absolutely,
bring it back to Cars and Bids in 90 days and make, arguably $10,000.
If the market is strong this spring, because that's the big question right now. Everyone's like, okay, what's going to happen with the market? Blah, 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 blah.
Rates are coming down, right?
Rates are coming down. If we get a bump in the market, if things get strong this spring, if the weather turns around in spring like it always does, and sports cars in general start to bounce back from the winter, buying this car for 16 grand, they're going to make a nice little flip on this thing if that's what they intended to do.
Nice.
And have a great car in the meantime. I don't know where they are or where they live, if they can enjoy it in the meantime. But I mean, this thing is just, if you do like one of these, this is as nice as one as we've seen almost ever. So on any of the auction platforms. So yeah, this was pretty darn great.
What's his other car?
What's whose other car?
You said he would have a great. He said he would have a great car in the meantime. What's his other car?
What? No, I said if he can enjoy it if he lives in an area where he can enjoy the car, he's going to have a good time.
You know how in the text when you get all mad at us if we explain the joke? Mm-hmm. Okay, he's implying that the guy won't be driving this car.
I still don't get it. I still don't get it. I guess it's just the
hurt is laughing.
Do any of you guys get that joke? I just whoosh right over my head. I don't. Not hitting me. Yeah. So I guess, maybe you can take the T-tops off and enjoy the snow. What do you guys think of the results of this 300ZX? Was this well bought? Was that a steal? Are we going to see this car again in the spring on a better auction platform? Mental, did you talk about this thing? I don't even know. I was trying to get over these
I
jokes.
did. The herd is actually, the money aside, this thing really is a time capsule to a bygone era. And there was a great joke in there about you could only bid on it if your sports coat had shoulder pads and things like that. And I hope that the person who bought this car, that's kind of what they're looking for, the same way that everyone buys the car. But yeah, this was the machine to have. This was the, you have arrived at your job car when it was new.
Yeah. Poverty sucks.
I still really like these with the last 2 years. They kind of 964ized them by rounding out the bumpers. And this, I'd love to see one of those pop up with a manual, and yeah, that'd be a good time. Those cars are pretty fun.
We'll cover it.
If it comes up.
Mental won't let one go by, so don't worry.
All right.
One more car.
One more car.
All right, JP, you picked the 2019 Porsche 935. This is a track-only special. This is a car to literally just show off. You can't just pull out your wallet and show people a bank statement. But if you invite people to the track to watch you do hot laps in your, we decided $1.1 million limited edition Porsche, that would be perfectly acceptable for letting everybody know you crushed it in the last bull run. Our car was in Concord, Ontario, Canada. selling receipts showed that it was about $1.1 million. It was the 13th example of 77 of these cars built to commemorate the original 935 that helped cement Porsche's racing legacy by turbocharging the 911 and developing into an incredible dominant car in sports car racing throughout Europe and the United States. This particular car has 945 kilometers. And while I know my colleagues in studio spent 20 minutes clamping down on people that don't drive their cars, I would suggest, and I think if Mental were to step back and think about this, 600 miles on a track-only car that's only a couple of years old and costs $1.1 million, I'd say this guy's been driving this car, and I'm actually impressed it's got 600 miles of track, hours. I know it's not that many laps, but this car is certainly not a garage queen. It's not under 100 miles like the last one we saw transact for 1.62. So with that in mind, our car was at $1,600,000 on 5 bids when we reviewed it. I got to start the bidding, and based on the comp that had sold earlier in 2023, I suggested that this car would not get another bid and sell for $1.6 million. JP said I stole his bid and offered to put his bid at $1,600,935. Wade was a bit more optimistic, going $1,650,000. And Mental was the most optimistic of us all, coming in at $1,699,900. Any wild bids in the herd there, Randy?
Let's see.
It's like Randy's like Randy's on the show without a camera,
Everyone agreed, and look, some people were like bidding below what it was when Vampire's 1.3 million. It's like, dude, it's already at 1.6, and that's what kind of when we play this game, it's like Texas Hold'em, right? It's like positioning, right? Where are you? What where's the button? All that kind of stuff, And you were in the first position. You got to take first bid, and you had the advantage. Going, look, it's 1.6, not getting any more, and I agreed with you. Yeah. So I was like, I don't know, what $911 on top of that.
So if I get to bid first, does that mean I have the blinder, or the blinder's right next to me?
Yeah, right. I think it means you got the blinder, right?
And JP, let me just ask you this. When we look at the bids and we see several bids that came in under where the car was at when we were talking about it, does that mean you said inflation a lot before we got to this car and half the herd is drunk? Is that what happened?
Haven't said it once this episode, so everyone's sober. I don't know. I can't remember back then because I was drunk, which I usually am doing this show, clearly. Yeah, this car, $1.6 million. I mean, look, there's just so much better. Look, you know what? No matter how much, if this car would have went for $2 million, $2.5 million, this car is for the ultimate douchebag. And this car would not be allowed on the Hill Country Rally that's coming up in a couple of months, right? Doesn't matter how expensive your car is. It matters what year it is. If it's past 89, you can't bring it. It's got to be an 89 or older, sports car. I think the Hill Country Rally is all 911s, right? You can bring 356s and stuff like that. So
no, F and G body only, period.
F and G body only. There you go. Yep. So, this is a car that doesn't matter how big your pockets are. And that's the problem a lot of times with car buyers and car enthusiasts and car flexers. They got to have the most expensive thing, and they got to show that they have the most expensive thing. And I just don't, I guess if you're just a super track rat and you're also a billionaire, I guess why not get one of these? But, I don't know any of these guys. Mental, what do you think of the result?
So Buddha went and did the research on this and figured out that Canadian Tire Motorsports track is 2.5 miles, which means this car covered roughly 240 laps, which if you figure out about 20 laps a track day, it's about 12 track days. So I am still not impressed that this car was driven.
What? Oh, come on, man. It's not a spec Miata. It's a $1 million, limited edition.
No, and again, car. But which
guy just drove it.
It just underscores my point, and it wasn't even about to test their mettle as a driver.
Yeah, but how many times?
It was the look at all my money.
Yeah, how many times you go to Historic or you go to Rennsport and you see guys ripping around in, multi-million-dollar 911s all the time, classic stuff.
Sure, this isn't a classic, though.
I don't understand. So what? That's my point. Is that the cars that are worth even more than this are getting driven more than this.
So we're in agreement.
Yeah, exactly. We are absolutely in agreement on this one. Yeah. So I don't know. What a dork. Shout out to the research department, though. Thanks, Buddha, for doing the math there.
Yeah. Buddha, and now to Buddha in archives. What do you got for us, Buddha? Buddha's down. Remember the movie Red? And he's like Ernest Borgnine down in the the elevator goes to a floor.
Nobody remembers the movie Red.
Right. I love that movie. Some thumbsucker came along and labeled him Red
with really pretty hair.
Good God, go to commercial. We'll be right back with new predictions right after this. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden, this guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. If you don't subscribe to Bid Nerds on YouTube right now, I'm gonna shoot this 997. If you said, wait, that's a 996, you're a nerd. So subscribe to the new YouTube channel, Bid Nerds. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. Yes, fine Swiss repair. I am looking at my watch and going, yep, looks like it is time for brand new predictions. Hey, if you are out there watching the show live and you're chatting away, we love seeing you chat. The Nerd Herd rocks it. If you guys want to DM me on Instagram, you can also do that if you have a specific question that you don't want to put in the chat. So let's say you want to make fun of someone else in the chat. But you don't want that to be seen in public. I'm trying to help you guys start some ish here in the, because I love seeing the interactions in the chat, but I feel like some people are holding back. So let's hear it. Let's get to it. Hit me with a DM on the Bid Nerds Instagram page, and I will be checking that for the rest of the night, see if anybody hops in there. Shout out to Guys Custom Bracelets as well. We still have Guys Custom Bracelets. They still sponsor the show. Guys Customs, that's GYX Customs.etsy.com. You can get all kinds of merch there. We're going to have hats and all kinds of stuff
sample.
There. Paint to sample beads, yeah.
That is unbelievable. What a great accessory for guys. You can get a Guys Customs bracelet, literally customized, bespoke, with beads that are paint to sample of your favorite car or motorcycle or trailer or ATV or boat or airplane or whatever you're into. Reach out to Guys Customs and order your swag today.
Scroll back up on that. Thanks, Mental, for bringing up the Guys Customs Etsy page. Scroll up to the top there where the posters are. That's another thing. People have been asking me about that. The Defrostination films that we made a few years back.
Shout out to Israel.
Yeah, to the top of that, Mental, to the top. You were there you go. Yep. So the posters there, some of these amazing posters made by Israel back in the day when we made these films. These are limited edition. Some of them are
Ice
signed.
Machine.
Yeah, that's the Ice Machine there. And you notice the number, the price was for, look, some of these are like 6 or 8 feet tall. There's some of them that are small, like movie poster size, and some of them are huge. And then we've got the smaller print ones and stuff like that.
Go back, Mental. I just want to pick one out for Anthony who's watching. Thank you. JP, that one all the way to the bottom right, is that the chiffon car?
That is the chiffon car. Yeah.
So check that out. So Anthony Vieira and I had a very nice conversation over the weekend, and we found out, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, that Anthony is a very proud owner of a chiffon colored car. And what I want to say is that our good friend, JP's really close friend, John Ortiz, this car that poster is based on a movie that John made for the Defrostination series on Ortiz's beloved longtime ownership chiffon car, which is, if I remember correctly, an 83 chiffon with Cocoa interior that he used to track and do DE events and everything. He sold it. I met him. And then since I moved back to San Francisco, John Ortiz has re-procured his original chiffon car and found it to be in like excellent taken care of condition. And he is loving that he got his old car back. But I would just say to Anthony Vera, tell me that's not twinsies to your car. It's got the same interior and everything. You might want one of those posters for your man cave, Anthony. So reach out to Guys Customs and pick out one of those chiffon posters for yourself. Look how cool that is. That's pretty awesome.
That would look pretty darn good in the Our Smith store right there in downtown Sandpoint, Idaho. Or nice, not Sandpoint, Idaho, but
matted
Boise, right?
Framed. That'd be pretty dope.
Heck yeah! And have you seen that film, Anthony? Did you watch it? By the way, I literally spent the day today exporting all of the so. When we made those original films for Defrost Nation, we made like 16 of them or something like that. We got approved to make another like dozen. And in that process of making the other dozen, that's when we also got the approval, or then we got a secondary approval to make the TV show. So there were like a dozen films or so that were made, DF films, Defrost Nation films that were made, but were never published. They were you could only see them in the, Porsche Road Trip TV show. Yeah, on Pluto, which ran for about a year. So I just exported all of those today, put some new bumpers on them and stuff like that, and I'm going to start putting them up here. I'm going to put one up a week for the next next couple of months. So there are new Defrost Nation films are coming starting tomorrow. I'm going to drop one tomorrow.
Look at the bi-turbo.
Yeah, there's a Defrost Nation channel. Scroll to the bottom. Scroll pretty low to the bottom there. Mental, you might find the chiffon car. Just keep going. That was one of the earlier films. I think the chiffon car was probably literally one of the. No, that's not it. Keep going.
Chronological order. It'll be down at the bottom.
Scroll up just a little bit to the right. Up. Keep going. There you go. There it is on the right. On the right. That's the one. There's the chiffon car. That's about John Ortiz. Just pop somewhere in the middle there. There you go. You'll find it. That's some really cool. That was a fun film to make.
And he still has stone guards and dark wheels, right? Doesn't it?
Yeah. The car still looks pretty much the same as it did when he sold it. So that's really cool that Anthony has that same car. That's awesome. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to some new predictions, and we've got some cool cars on the list. What do we got? What's the first car?
All right, JP. So Buddha reached out to us early in the week and said, hey, did you see on Bring a Trailer the 1991 BMW 850i with a 6-speed manual that used to belong to Michael Jordan? To which I said, I sure did, and boy, will it be fun to cover this car. This car was sold new out of Motorworks of Barrington, Illinois, and Michael Jordan was the original owner of the car. The car only has 30,000 miles at this time, but is coming to market with the 5-liter V12 and a 6-speed manual transmission. I'm not exactly sure who did all the modifications, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were also done by Michael Jordan. And what we're talking about are some Schnitzer wheels, AC Schnitzer wheels, and then it looks like there's a little bit of a body kit on there, a bigger front air dam, some rocker panels, a lower rear valance, and of course a fixed rear wing on the back. And the license plate for sure is Michael Jordan's. It says M-A-M-R-J, which is really cool. Just an awesome car. The light interior might not be my favorite, but JP, I will say this. Oftentimes when we see celebrity-owned cars, nobody pays a penny more for the fact that the celebrity owned it. But Michael Jordan is a celebrity of an entirely different level, especially considering this is a 1991 car. It's a pure Youngtimers. And in 1991, Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson were arguably the two biggest pop icons on the planet. And at that time, you either were hanging out in nightclubs and trying to moonwalk like Michael Jackson, or you were in the gym wearing long shorts, which were just becoming in style thanks to Jordan, and sticking out your tongue when you went to the hoop. And I found myself in the latter group. I was a huge fan of Jordan. And I actually think, and this is saying a lot because I really don't believe in celebrity-owned cars, I actually think this car will bring a premium because he owned it, especially as the first owner. And especially with that vanity plate, a lot of Jordan's plates were of that nature. So I kind of drinking the Kool-Aid on this one. And then later today, or later this afternoon, I should say, Sahan reached out to me to cover the same car. So we've kind of looked at this car all week. Everybody's been eyeballing it. Where it's currently sitting with just 1 day to go is already a retail number for the car, and it's not done yet. So JP, I send back to you an 850i. This is an early one. It's not a CSI, but it's still a, count on one hand how many different cars you can find with a 5-liter V12 and a 6-speed manual in the marketplace between the time this car came out and what's available today. I'm sure there's less than 10 or a dozen ever by any variety of cars. So this is a really rare model, really rare drivetrain to enjoy, and kind of still a cool car. I think 850s are having a bit of a moment, but this one might not be the top one, but I think with low miles and the ownership with Jordan and a few other things, I think this car is going to do really, really well. And it's already showing that now. So I send it back over to you. Buddha and Sahan, thank you for picking the car. Certainly one not to be missed. JP, would you walk down that road with me that this car might bring a premium that it shouldn't, or do you just think that, it's just another car and it's not going to do well?
Yeah, I mean, if a YouTuber has the car, if it's a, I don't know, the Beast owns the car or something like that, or some B actor or some lousy actress or something like that. Yeah, nobody really cares. Paris Hilton had the car, and a bunch of her glitter is still, all over in the cracks of the seats and stuff. Nobody wants that, skank car. But something like this, the glitter that's in any glitter that you'll find in the seats and in the cracks of the seats, started out on the lap of Michael Jordan. People are into that kind of stuff. I was a busboy in Seattle when Chicago came to town to beat my Seattle Supersonics in the championship game, and I waited on Jordan, and it was funny when they left, the other busboys and a bunch of people were like collecting like his napkins and his cigar butts and like all this stuff. It's like, what are you guys gonna? Oh, we're gonna make money. I'm like, what? Gross. So people absolutely will pay extra money for Michael Jordan stuff. If I owned this car, I would have bought a pair of blue blue Air Jordans and just put them. I had at least one picture with a pair of those in the trunk or something like that in a basketball, just to have a little bit of fun. Mental, is this car you? What are you gonna do? You gonna buy this thing?
This is a great car. It is past the retail of it. They are a little finicky. Michael Jordan does like his big 12-cylinder Euro trash though, because he also had a CL600. I believe the modifications just were done by Loringer. What's also interesting is not just the fact that Michael Jordan owned this, but the fact that non-car media outlets have picked up on the fact that Michael Jordan. So this car, as Van already pointed out in the chat, this car is all over the interwebs. It's on Jalopnik. It's on The Drive. It's on everywhere. So you are now bringing in an entirely new collector market of not car collectors, but memorabilia collectors, and they will absolutely add this into their collection of excessively priced items. So yes, it's going to get a premium. What it comes down to is how much of a premium, because it was Michael Jordan's. Yeah,
this thing's going to be parked next to that car that the Porsche, what was it, the 935 that we covered on the last episode here. All right, Michael Deeb, what's it going to bring?
So, JP, the full retail on an 850 in Concours condition is in the $90,000 range. Our car closes tomorrow, and it's already at $95,023 on a respectable 26 bids of action. JP, I think that this car, this isn't really a $100,000 example, but it's already at $100,000, and I think this should be about a 20% premium for Jordan's ownership. So I'm going to go with $123,000 where I believe this car will sell. In fact, I think it'll sell. If it didn't get another bid, I think it would sell at this number. But it's way more at $123,000. That's actually probably twice what a nice 850 manual should bring, that $65,000 to $70,000 range with a car with like 100,000 miles on it. So this being low miles, modified, and more than anything else, Jordan owned, I think $123,000 is in play. The question is, John, are you going to go over that number? How much do you believe in his ownership?
Taking it to the hole. I'm going huge on this one. You gotta double it. It's still got another day. I'm going 150. I think someone's gonna pay stupid money for this car. Yes, I agree with you, but the memorability. Mental brought up a great point. Everybody's talking about this thing. I mean, they'll pay $150,000 for a basketball that he actually used. Why wouldn't they spend that much for a freaking car that happens to also be a really awesome car? Mental, what do you think?
I agree with everything you guys are saying, but I've got to point out the seller blew it. Look at this picture. You've got Michael Jordan's friggin' car, man. Go and hire a photographer. For Pete's sakes. I mean, these are better than most average shots that we are seeing on this, but he still did the side of the road. Looks like it's broken down kind of a deal. Come on. I'm going to say it's going to sell, but I'm going to say it's going to sell for $140,023.
All right.
140,023. I like JP's idea of putting a pair of light blue and white Air Jordans in like size 13 or whatever he wore. That's easy to look up. Put them in the trunk, and then they should have photographed this car in a schoolyard basketball court. How cool would that have been with the hoops in the background?
See, that's what you get. Those are the ideas you get when you hire a professional.
Well, like JP, I am plagiarizing JP's. JP wrote the first paragraph, and I'll give you the rest of the book. So there you go. I like it. All right, good bids. What do you think, John? There we go.
Yeah, the looks like the Nerd Herd is more in agreement with you. People aren't going too nuts like me. David Vaughn is the closest to my bid at $145, but everyone else is kind of like $130, $120. Yeah, you know what would have sold this as a paint to sample guy's custom bracelet with the number 23 on here would have been 23 bead would have been pretty dope, right? All right, well, we're going to find out how much this car goes for on the next episode, so make sure you come back on Wednesday to find out what this car closes at and see if your bids are better than ours. If you are watching this later, if you're watching this on the individual episode of this car, put your bid in the comments below and timestamp it. Prove your metal. That's the way we used to do it. Timestamp it, and then after the break that you'll watch, if you're watching this on a later episode, we'll reveal right after this. All right, here we go. What's the next car that we got? Michael Deeb.
All right, JP. Chef reaches out to you and I on a group text, and Chef selected for us actually a really cool driver car. This is, it's not in the same category as the Flying Hawaiians car, but this is a 1975 Porsche 911S backdate. And what the real story is, and something my partner John says to an exhausting degree, but has never been proven wrong, is that the motor drives the value of the car. Not drives the car, that would be Captain Obvious, but literally, if a car's got a good motor, that's going to bring the value up. So while you look at this car and it looks kind of like a Carrera, in fact, with those flat wheels, it almost looks like a narrow body backdate. The real story here, JP, is a 3.5 liter flat six with twin plug heads, a GT3 style intake plenum, wave track limited slip differential. The story goes on and on. Let me see if I can get to the engine thing here. I had it teed up and then I lost it. So Rasant Products was the one who built this motor with Mahle pistons, high compression CP pistons, Mahle cylinders, high compression pistons, Elgin high lift camshafts, high rate valve springs, twin spark head, billet valve covers, Motec engine management, and it just goes on and on. 964 spec oil pump and front cooler. This is JP at 3.5 liter. I'm be willing to bet that this motor easily puts 300 horsepower to the pavement. I mean, at the tires. This is a beast of a motor. And based on what they did by pulling all the G-body stuff off of this thing, I'm guessing that's a 24, maybe 2,500 pound car with that roll bar. This looks like it would be a lot of fun. I don't think it has the Singer flair or fit and finish. The digital dash with the analog readout doesn't do anything for me, but I like the seats. I like the steering wheel. And I imagine I would love the sound and the driving experience that this car would provide. So this looks like a hell of a driver's car. JP, it is worth noting, as I sent it over to you, our car ran on Bring a Trailer in December of 22, which is about 13 months ago, where it failed to sell at $120,000. So the owner of this car is obviously in it a lot more than that, and is expecting a lot more than that. So keep that in mind as you look at what we've got here. I'm telling you, JP, I think that is every bit a $60,000 motor 3 or 4 or 5 years ago when the work was done in 2017. So my guess is today that motor would probably cost you north of $85,000 to provide. And I could be wrong, I could be over, but I think it would take a long time to get a motor built that produces what that motor produces from that probably started life as a 3.2 and was bored out to 3.5. That's a hell of a motor. It's got all the best stuff in it. So JP, I sent it over to you. You and I are both huge fans of these types of cars. What do you like about this one, and what don't you like about this one? And please start with that dashboard. Are you of the mindset that looks cool in the car? Because that missed me with your halogen light. What are those when they put the headlights? I don't like those modern headlights, and I don't like
the 911 headlights and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't like those dashes and stuff. Like, keep the car looking period correct a little bit.
I don't know why they went that way. Maybe something to do with the engine management just required it. Sometimes it's hard to get analog gauges to talk to modern fuel systems and stuff like that. So that's probably why they went this way. I don't hate it. I'm going to admit, I don't hate it. I actually think it's kind of cool. Again, wouldn't be my choice, but I think it's the kind of thing you'd be like, all right, well, that's kind of fun. Throw something different in there. And there in that picture, you can see you get the digital version. It's like the modern ones. That's basically what the new ones do.
But if you look, those are digital representations of a period correct gauge.
Which is really cool.
Green, the green gauges. Well, then JP, you could put your new dash clock on the shelf.
Yeah, you could get yourself a MiG 29 dash clock over there on the right.
Put it on the shelf.
I got one for Rami for Christmas, and it showed up. So,
cool.
I've got one at home. And Anthony from Hoursmith reached out to me when he heard us talking about it on that one episode. He's like, "Hey, if you get one of those, be careful because." Some of them are radioactive, and they may have. If you know anyone with a Geiger counter, you might want to go. It's like I know someone with a Geiger counter. What? Who knows someone with a Geiger counter?
All right, time out. All
right.
What are those Jeeps that go to Mogfest? Those Poocher, Steery. What are they called?
The Steyr Pooch, and the Unimogs and stuff. Yeah.
How many people do you know that own one of those things?
0. Well, one.
Really?
No, I don't know.
What?
I mean, I've seen a million of them, but I don't know anyone personally that actually owns one.
See, I would have guessed you had 2 friends in the Northwest that had one, and one of those 2 guys has a Geiger counter in the trunk of it.
Probably. Mental's raising his hand. Do you have a Geiger counter? Can you borrow one from the
I've got 2 friends. I've got 2 friends back in Oklahoma. They've got a thing for military surplus, and they both have Geiger counters.
Can they FedEx their Geiger counters over so I can make sure I'm not killing Rami when I hand him his Christmas gift?
Seriously.
Anthony's like, you don't really want that on the dashboard in front of your face if air's coming. But it's an 80s one, so it doesn't. He's saying it's like the 50s ones might have it. But anyways, this car's... Huh?
Anthony says, keep the Geiger counter away from your wife's ovaries. That's
fun car. I really like this thing. We say every time something like this comes up, the engine is important, like you said, but also the builder. And there's no name on this darn car, and that's why it only got to...
Ressant built the motor.
They built the motor, but they didn't build the car, and that's what I'm talking about.
They built the motor,
the engine's great. Don't get me wrong, the engine is fantastic. I mean, Ressant is fantastic. Easily a $60,000 engine build. And if you wanted to build one of these cars, if you're starting with with a 75 911, you're in the 200 plus club real fast to try to make this. Yeah. It's not going to bring it. It's the wrong time of year. We've seen it with tons of other cars. We saw the best case study. We say it almost every time we see one of these backdates. We use the Flying Hawaiian as the example. He tried to sell his car on BAT in December of last year, and it only got up to 225. He waited till summer, put it on a lesser platform. He put it on PCAR Market, and it got to 275. With a video for me, which I'm sure that's what it all was, but I can't take all the credit. So it's the wrong time of year for this car. I should take the credit. And by the way, you can hire me to make films for your cars if you're selling your car.
What?
By the way, I never put that out there. We need to start selling that because
All you have to do if you want to hire JP is call Mental on his cell phone, which he'll put up at in the comments. Just dial Mental, and Mental will make all of JP's appointments for him.
Yeah, just man. I mean, come on, man. Just find me on the.
I want Deeb to be there the first time JP is like, why am I up at 4:00 in the morning? Who made this appointment? Damn it.
As long as they write a check and it's not as long as it's not a glowing bill like the Mignot's. I love this car. Will it bring as much as it did almost 2 years ago? That will be the big question. Mental, what do you think of this thing?
I'm going to take, and I reserve the right to be wrong, but I am going to take a little bit of umbrage. I don't think it failed to sell. I think the previous version was bid up to $122,000 and somebody didn't pay. Then the very next month it sold to its current seller for about $80,000 on that one. This is an amazing car. There's some love and some hate for the wheels. They're very polarizing. I think they are absolutely perfect for the mission that this car was built for. I'm not into a lot of glitz and glamour. I've always been a form follows function kind of a deal, which is actually why I do like the dash and I like the gauges as well.
Yeah, that dash is definitely a lot lighter than the gauges for sure. You know, what is the company Group 4? They make the aluminum steelies. Would have looked just sick on this thing,
especially when they're wide, when they're big, wide steelies.
This setup, holy cow! All right, Deeb, what's it going to bring in this time?
JP, before I get into that, I just want to commend you. You made a really great comment, which was this car didn't sell in the winter, and you're saying you said this car is being brought back at the wrong time of the year, and it's like, why didn't they learn? In December of 22, this car failed to make its mark, and now you're selling it in the first week of January a year later. I think that is a tragic mistake. So with that in mind, and again, you cannot ignore that this car failing to sell on this platform becomes its own worst comparable result. We call it a comp. So it's its own worst comp at 122 in December a year ago, 121, I should say. That being said, I do think the car stands a chance to do a little better than it did last year. But now I'm losing all my mojo. You know, like we see Porsches that like, all right, for sake of argument, our car closes tomorrow and it's at $75,000 on 16 bids. So it's getting some action. Typically we see Porsches double on the final day. So if 75, you say this car is arguably tracking $150,000. I don't think that's what's going to happen here. I think this car is going to get to about like the low 130s. I'll give you $135,000, where I suspect it will fail to sell for the second time. I think they're looking for $140,000, $150,000, but I just don't think. I think it's going to come close, and it may go over what it was last time, but I don't think it's going to find a retail home. So at 135, it will fail to sell. JP, what say you?
Yeah, you said 135 in an FTSs?
Yeah.
I think it gets there. I think it gets to the 140. Okay. I think, because, something that we've seen lately, and again, not to just keep going back on cars that we've talked about here, but all the more reason to have changed the wheels for this thing, because that at least would have given it a completely different look and would have freshened up the ad from the old ad. I mean, you look at the pictures from this one and the previous one, it's very clearly the exact same car. But I feel like, what was it? We did an episode on the best auctions and the worst auction results.
Oh, that was fun.
Of the year. That was, the last episode we did of the year for 2023. And we talked about Shadi's car as kind of the number one hero of last year. He put his car up for sale on BAT. It failed to sell at like 90. And then it came back a few months later running the exact same ad, and it went to 160. So I think sometimes ish is just off, man. I think sometimes there's just like something didn't happen. There was a misfire for one reason or the other. And now this seller has the car and they're trying to sell it again. I think they're going to get to $140 because this car is hot. And okay, get your drinking game. There is inflation. People do want this stuff, and they know that this car may not have a name for the whole car, but that Ressant does go a long way. That engine's going to push it over the top. Where do you think it's going to get to, Mental?
I do not share your faith. I do agree that it is a good car. I think it's a wicked cool car, but I think it is targeted more towards people like me than it is the collector crowd. So I think it will sell, but I'm going to go way under, and I'm even going under the nerd herd. I'm going to say 91,111. And
wow.
And he'll get rid of it because they drove it and they had
you
their fun
think it'll
with it.
sell at that?
You think?
Well, I mean, he did say that he thinks someone bought this thing for 80, which is absurd.
No. If you look at the history, I think that's what happened because the owner selling it now is not the owner that sold it last year.
Mm-hmm. You think the owner bought it for 80 grand?
88 or something. I
It
remember
says
looking
that
through
in
it
the
before the
thing?
show. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It had the previous two ads, and again, I was
That'd be a steal
as I was
Holy
setting it
shit.
up. We were breezing through it,
Yeah.
and I could have completely misread the ad, or it was another red, 70 something Porsche.
That those wheels, by the way, are 1552s, like the Magnus Walker.
The current ones, yeah. I know they're hipster wheels, but I just don't. They don't pop, man. They just don't work.
Well, yeah, 1552s are not performance wheels. They are poser wheels. I have a pair, but they are not lighter. They're not lighter or made of exotic materials. They are not a performance upgrade. They are a performance downgrade. You're increasing the unsprung weight, and you're diminishing the handling capabilities of the car. I know, minor percentage, but they're not an upgrade. They're just for looks.
Yeah, and they're not, and it's not working from a looks point of view. Gold would have been better on the red, but that's just my opinion. Anyways, all right, let's move on to another car. What else we got?
All right, JP, I picked this car for you. So this is a 1981 Volkswagen Scirocco S with a 5-speed transmission. Our car is running on Bring a Trailer, brought to market by 911R, our friends up at Avant Garde, out of Portland, Oregon. And this car is running at no reserve as an alumnus, as this car, I think, sold in September of 2022 on BAT. And at that time, it sold for just $8,000. But this car, JP, if you take a look at the photos as we kind of go through here with Mental, there are some really cool modifications. This is, I'm going to say it right now. Like when I bought that Alfetta GT that I'm currently underwater in financially, I wanted to make something like this. Like when you look at this car, it's obviously a Scirocco to a guy who knows Volkswagens, but to just about anybody else in the world, you would hardly know what kind of car this is. Beautiful design, really cool oversized wheels, the big front air dam, and then JP, when Mental gets to the inside, it's got like Volkswagen version of RS door cards with like just a little pull strap. It's got some cool little GT seats and no carpet, just some glued in floor mat carpeting, an aftermarket stereo, and some lap belts. I think this car is everything. I love this thing. I think it's a really badass little hot rod that hasn't been bastardized. It looks like a car that handles really well, probably doesn't make a ton of power, but it looks like it would probably handle. I love everything about it. This car to me is a feast for the eyes, and I all the details that are on here are great. There's also, when Mental gets down there, there's a couple of, look at that picture. That is just awesome. Look how the door strap and the shift boot match. The details are everywhere, and I really enjoyed it. There's a couple of shots underneath the vehicle, JP, and the motor and the drivetrain and the suspension, everything are very, very clean on this car. It just looks like a really nice condition. I can't believe somebody bought this thing for $8,000 and is selling it. Like if I bought this car for $8,000, I would just never sell it. Like this cost me nothing. It's like you got it for free. Why would you ever part with it? It's just a really cool car. So JP, I picked this one for you, but I don't want to give it to you. I want to keep it for myself. Clearly, I love this car. This to me is in the genre. It's awesome. Send it to you. Go ahead, JP. What do you think? What do you like about it? Is there anything about this car you don't like?
There's some weird stuff about this car. I love it, but some of these details, like the wood thing that they put in the wood grating that they put in the sunroof area. I'm going back and forth from the old ad and the new ad, trying to figure out what they changed from what. There's so many really cool details.
Isn't that the floorboard out of a Volkswagen thing?
That's what it looks like. It's like what, or like a baby gate or something like that. It's like,
patootie.
Yeah, it's something to keep patootie from coming in. It's weird, like the dashboard, all the the heater controls have been deleted or something like that, but there's still a fan switch. So it's like, okay, does this have heat? It just has this little pull thing. So what does that mean? You just pull it, and so does it have heat exchangers at all? I love the seats. Those are the seats I put in my back date. Those are the exact seats. I love them things. So yeah, it's neat as hell. I love this. It's probably a Zender front body. That splitter is really cool. But there's no roof. What do you call that? The headliner has been stripped out, which, okay, I guess that is good for lightning or whatever. All the carpets are taken out except for the floor mats. I guess it's neat. It's a neat car. It surprises me that they didn't finish the dashboard. The dashboard has cracks. It's got all these cool attention to details, but they couldn't source a new dashboard. I know a new dashboard or a good dashboard for one of these is probably
or just glue it, just flack it. Just you patch it up and then throw the flacking that matches the door cards.
Yeah, it's just that some of those things surprise me, but I'm with you. For an enthusiast car, something that's really unique for $8,000, I think they're going to do really well. We're at $8,000 now, and it's still got a day to go. What do you think, Mental?
All right, so while I'm getting into this, there's some discussion in the Nerd Herd. What would you guys call this color? I think it's like I think it is like a mustard poop yellow.
So it's like a Bahama yellow from Porsche.
Yeah.
Doesn't Porsche have like that olive color JP that's very similar to that? Like on
they have Bahama yellow. Bahama yellow is pretty much that color. If I'm
All right.
So what's interesting though is clearly someone kind of obsessed over this car and they made it a bit of a project and they lightened everything. But if I owned a Mark I Scirocco and I loved it and it was a fantastic car. JP and I were talking about this, but the delineator from the regular Scirocco to the S, which they only, when was the last time you even saw a Mark I Scirocco, much less an S, was the sunroof, and they blocked off the sunroof. That is, it's puzzling. But if you also look at the first ad where this sold for $8,000, it did not have that lip on it. It didn't have the bodywork. This is someone obsessed over this. They even took the time, if you look right there, to remove the passenger door handle and smooth that over. So
weird.
Someone just had this very selective OCD while they were building this car. I must smooth over where the door latch was and save the 7 ounces, but the dashboard, it's fine.
Yeah, because that's a lot of work to shave a door handle like that, correct the paint, and then not. Good. That is really weird.
Maybe they stripped this car for parts because they're working on a really nice.
I mean, if you have a Scirocco, you've got another Scirocco because you're gonna need it. Finding parts for these is not a thing that you want to have to do. All right, what do we think it's going to bring? It's a really neat car, but is it going to bring a bunch of extra money?
All right, JP. So our car, again, it sold a year ago for $8,000. It's closing tomorrow, as you mentioned, and it's sitting at $8,200 on a whopping 6 bids. JP, I think this car is going to bring 50% more money. I'll give you $12,000 where it sells. Where are you at?
Yeah, it's tough to argue against that. I'm going to go just a tad under because it is still just a Mark I Volkswagen, and they just don't bring that much money even when they're really nice. We saw that Mark I GTI, was that last week, the week before? It just kind of failed to really get there. I thought it would get a lot more money as clean as it was. So I'm going to go under you at, I don't know, what'd you say, 12 or 12 and a half?
Yeah, 12 grand. 12
grand. Okay, I'll go to 11 and a half. I'm going to park it right behind you and go to mental.
I'm a lot snottier than you. I love this that they turned it into a one-armed bandit, but I think it's going to go for $9,999. I don't think it's going to break 10 grand.
All right.
Yeah, Anthony's like, whoever owns this car doesn't need a passenger door because they're definitely single and they're going to stay that way. This is not a car that any woman would be impressed with. Is nostalgia going to do it for this car? I mean, there's just people that are into old Volkswagens at this point. The Volkswagens that are popular or the young timers are 80s and 90s. And this car
it was built for one person.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it is an 81, but technically this is a 70s style car. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, what do you guys think? Let's move on to the last car of the night.
All right, JP, Sahan reached out to me and said that we should cover this 2001 BMW M3. This is an E46 M3 on Bring a Trailer, offered out of Phoenix, Arizona, showing 18,000 original miles with a 6-speed manual. And do you want to know what the most valuable aspect of this car is? The fact that it is painted Laguna Seca blue. Really, really interesting thing. I have, when I select cars every week, I star all the cars that I'm interested in. And then before the show, I pick from my basket of cars. And I had this car teed up, but I didn't select it. But Sahan did. So I'm glad Sahan pushed us over the top to cover this car, because there is this weird thing with E46 M3s that if they are painted Laguna Seca blue, and just that color, there is a 20% add in value according to Haggerty's price guide, which is really interesting. So with that in mind, I went over to classic.com and Bring a Trailer and looked at the top results for E46 coupes. And lo and behold, all the highest value cars are manual, low mile, and Laguna Seca blue. So really cool car. We know that E46 is an amazing performance machine, and for a long time has been a fantastic value in the secondary market. Miss me with the SMG. That transmission is actually garbage, but a 6-speed manual winds up being one of the purest analog, hopefully never to be forgotten driving experiences. And this one looks to be in exceptional condition. So it's a wonderful revving inline 6. It's a 2-door coupe. It's got quad exhaust, big tall wheels, great suspension and brakes. And this one ticks, according to the price guides, all the boxes. So JP, before we get into the numbers, I'll just sort of lob it over to you to talk about E46s. What do you like and what don't you like? I know we've covered a few. This one is not competition. It doesn't have special wheels or anything like that, but it's a manual, it's low miles, and it's this apparently highly sought after shade of blue. So what do you think about this particular car before we start talking about the absurdity of the numbers that this car is going to bring?
I mean, 18,000 miles. BMW does not sell anything. If you go to any BMW store in America or in the world for that matter and walk into any showroom, none of them will have a car that is more desirable than this one. Not one of them. They don't build anything like this anymore. They make the M4, which has 2 gaping wounds on the front of the damn thing. It's the stupidest looking. I mean, everybody gave that, was a Bengal, a hard time for his designs. Yeah. Their current designer is like, hold my freaking beer. The Bengal's got to be like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, liberated. Liberated.
I don't feel so bad anymore. We talked about the ZHP before, and right. I was thinking it would get $30,000, and compared to this one at 58, and it's not even done. It still has 2 days to go. Where will this car go? Just because the color, I don't know what it is about these weird shades of blue that makes people like BMW people and Porsche people go so freaking gaga. I mean, a Mexico blue or a Riviera blue or a Miami blue 911 brings so much extra money, and it's just the stupidest thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think yes, the blue looks great, but it's not. I'd still rather have a black one, for crying out loud, and save $30,000 to have the exact same car, and maybe fly under the radar. I don't know. This is a fantastic car. Forget the color. Forget everything else. It's a BMW E46 M3 is probably one of the best driving cars of all time, given what they're worth. I love it, but it's already, with 2 days to go, way above what I think one of these should go for, even though it's, to me, the best car you could get with a BMW badge on it. What do you think, Mental?
So I do agree with Deeb. It's the color that sells these, and I've talked about the BMW collector market. It's not as strong as you see with the other marquees, but if you are looking to try and get that BMW collector market, this is the car. And we beat on this a lot, but clearly someone hired a photographer. And if you notice, all of the backgrounds are designed to highlight this color because they understand that this is this is the one. This is that gets all the blood pumping on there. And a low mileage example, this is as close to a collectible BMW as you're probably going to see for a little while.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. What's it going to bring, Deeb?
All right. So before I predict what it is, I just want to give you some data. Okay. So according to Haggerty's price guide, a number one condition, concourse condition, is a $70,000 car. A number two excellent condition is a $51,000 car. This is probably an excellent condition car, but I think the BMW herd is going to go crazy. And then, like I said, Haggerty suggests a 20% increase for Laguna Seca Blue. So according to Classic.com, one of the highest prices paid for this was a 16,000 mile example with a manual transmission in Laguna Seca Blue, and it sold what did it sell on? Gooding. So Gooding sold the car for $106,000 in March of 2022. Now the market was extra crazy back then. It has definitely softened since that time. But if you go to Bring a Trailer's top results, they have a car that sold in December of 2022 with 13,000 miles, Laguna Seca Blue, and a manual, and that car sold for $92,000. And I checked the VIN numbers on all three of the cars. All three cars are different. So these are not the same three cars, despite all of them being the same wheels, the same transmission, interior, and blue paint job. So with all that in mind, the market is soft. It's kind of the dead of winter. Our car is sitting at $58,000, and it's got 2 days to go. It's entirely possible this car goes up to 100 grand, but I'm just going to temper my expectations for this one a little bit, and I'm going to go $84,000 where I think it will sell, because it's a little higher mileage than the other two. The photography is good, but I don't think it's outstanding. I think if they had hired, maybe a studio shots or something, and a $1,000 detail, and maybe you could be looking at 90 grand. But I think this car still winds up looking like a really excellent used car instead of a collector trophy that's never going to be driven again. So with that in mind, I think somebody would pay $84,000 and still drive it to car shows or, occasionally, but not regularly. So John, what do you think? Are you in the same park as me, or do you think this is going to go stupid like some of those other examples I gave you?
Mantle, would you do me a favor and look up how much an M4 is, a brand new one? Like, what's the list price for one of those? And I think they still make them with 3 pedals. I think that is one of the few cars that you actually can get. I'm sure they're great cars, but don't want one. Yeah. The number I had in my head was $85,046. So yes, I'm definitely with you, Deeb, on the number. There's no way it's going to get to 100. Yeah, but barely. I mean, that was just the number I had in my head before I heard yours.
And oddly enough, on Edmund's website, what color do they use?
That blue. Looks like a Storl.
But it's the blue.
It's that crazy blue, right?
Yeah, because they know their audience. A base is about 80 grand, and a new one or competition's 84. All the way up.
How great is that? It's like you wish someone at BMW, at the factory, would be paying attention to BAT. It's like we talked earlier in the show about how dealers don't know anything about or how surprising it is that so many of them don't know about the auction culture.
Right.
And by and large, a lot of the manufacturers aren't aware of what the hell's going on either. And it's like you'd think someone over there would be paying attention going, hey, look, they know enough to know that the blue is the most popular color, but they haven't figured out that their car from 2001 is more popular and will sell for more money than their brand new stupid thing that nobody wants and people have completely forgotten about. Never mind the fact that they went and changed their nomenclature. What the hell is an M4? Everything's an M now. It's like you got a BMW. Oh yeah, it's an M. Everything is M. Something M. It's like, dude, they just relax with the M. They just they totally diluted the value of the letter M. They absolutely ruined it, and just because an M3 doesn't mean anything now. Yes, nope. I guess it's a four-door sedan sports version of that, but nobody wants that. Everybody wants a two. It's just BMW just completely lost their way. We didn't let Mental give his bid yet.
Yeah, but the M3's brand recognition, JP, to your point, was unbelievable.
It was 911. It was 911 and M3.
Yeah, it was the ultimate driving coupe that the Ultimate Driving Machine company made. and they diluted it with their nomenclature. Talk about like a couple of monkeys trying to F a football. I mean, unbelievable. Mental, where are you at with your bid? And then when you get to the bids from the herd, I want to know where Sahand is at since he selected the car.
All right, Sahand is here at $80,046, which is right about in the middle. We've got the Nerd Herds running down as low as 77 and is high up as I think 85 is what we.
Nobody in the 90s. Nobody in the 90s.
But
JP, you're the high man, JP.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But they all agree that if this was on another website, it would probably be a lot more. So I should have
what?
All of it. But EAG, they said EAG would be selling this thing for $120,000, which I guess is
that's what they'd be asking for it, but that doesn't mean that's what they'd be getting for it. Yeah.
I also I am on record, it should be the new drinking game for 2024. I don't think the BMW collector car market is there. And like Deeb said, despite the significance and the capabilities of this car, this is basically a used BMW. So even though it's gonna go for more than a new M4, I'm gonna say 85,888.
Oh, the high man, 85.
Man, putting me sandwich, giving my window like this big. Thanks a lot. All right.
Quick,
that means we have parity.
Quick shout out to Eric Keller, who is the founder of EAG in Cincinnati, who I only just found out recently had perished several months ago in a motorcycle accident. Super nice guy, John. I don't know if you ever got to meet him. He's about our age, and he and his brother started the company, but he was the driving force behind this dealership in Cincinnati that specialized in servicing, buying, and trading all BMWs. And as such, oftentimes he would be the high man in the marketplace, setting the market for the best examples of the M cars. He really drove the prices and the values for these cars as collectors, which is in direct opposition to what Mental is saying, is that the BMW collector market is not strong. And so Eric Keller was really the one guy that was dying on that hill for M cars. And I understand that he's no longer with us, and he was a really, really wonderful guy. So if anybody in the herd had ever heard of or ever had the opportunity to talk or meet Eric Keller, they'll know what I'm talking about. He was a really, really great guy. And I wonder what the future is for EAG without him, because I think he really was the driving force. But really good points by Mental, and a cool car, Sahan. Thank you for selecting that. That was really fun.
Buddha asked the question, who did a bigger fail for their brand? BMW screwing up the M, or Porsche with the word turbo, putting turbo on an EV? I don't know. I think the answer is Mustang making an EV that's a hatchback four-door. They took it to the next level. No, the answer to your question, Buddha, is clearly BMW, because that's a whole class. I mean, turbo was always a version of a 911, so it's not like they started. But they always put turbos on other stuff. Clearly, the BMW thing is the bigger fail, because M3 just doesn't mean anything to anyone anymore unless you were an old school enthusiast. Because there's no current M3.
Since we're playing this game, what's the bigger fail then? BMW screwing up the nomenclature with the M name, or New Coke?
BMW, clearly.
One of those is taught in business school, and the other one.
Well, New Coke was a huge boon. I mean, that's a whole other story. But New Coke was by design. It won the Cola Wars for Coke. I mean, it's a fact. That's what they did. They came out. Everyone thought it was a big blunder, but it created so much brand awareness and so much demand for the old one, and they knew what the hell they were doing. I like the New Coke, by the way. It was more like Pepsi. Yeah. I'll be that guy. I remember when they made New Coke.
And JP is no longer allowed to be on the screen for the rest of the show. This will all be Deeb.
So JP, when you pick up your MR2, there's a case of New Coke in the trunk, which is in the front.
And in the back is a bunch of Crystal Light, and then I've got some Pepsi Clear. Remember Pepsi Clear? That stuff was the greatest.
Tab soda.
My mom used to drink. What was the Pepsi? Was it Pepsi Light that had the lemon in it? The blue can.
Oh,
you remember that?
I remember that. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I remember. I was probably I was in junior high, and she wanted me to go down to the corner store to get her a 6-pack of the of her Pepsi Light. So I got the 6-pack. I put it on the counter in this little bodega type store in Everett. And the counter, like the old guy behind the counter, he's got a newspaper. He kind of glances at me over the newspaper and then goes back to reading the newspaper with one hand and takes the 6-pack and puts it below the counter and says, "Come back when you grow up." And I'm like standing there going, "What?" He thought it was like Schlitz
alcohol
or something like that. Yeah, he thought it was a 6-pack of beer. I'm like, "Bro, it's Pepsi." And he's like, "What?" "Oh, $2.99 or whatever it was." I was like, "Come on, man."
JP, you grew up in the Pacific Northwest. Did you guys up there in the Seattle area have Shasta Cola?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that was good
stuff. I want
stuff.
a pop. I want a Shasta.
Shasta Cola.
Mental,
you might not know what Shasta
guy.
Cola is, right?
Oh, I know it. Shasta Cola. We had Shasta and the Czech Cola was the other. You had Dr. Czech was one of the worst ones, and I forget what Shasta's knockoff of Dr. Pepper was, but yeah, that was always the one that showed up at your 8-year-old birthday party because no one was going to spend money on actual Cokes that we were all going to spill anyway.
Yeah, the parents would get the 2-liter bottle that'd be flat in about 14 seconds.
Yeah, JP, we had one of those brick buildings downtown in the financial district that was something that predated the 2006 earthquake, and painted on the bricks like 7 stories up was a big advertisement for Shasta Cola. And until somebody built a building up along the side of it, probably in the last 10 or 20 years, as a kid growing up, that was like, it was like a landmark downtown San Francisco was this old Shasta Cola ad that was, half a century old.
Still remember the ads, yeah. Nerd Herd, you guys are killing it. We got some new members of the Nerd Herd in there, I noticed tonight.
Call them out.
Where'd it go here? V12 Smooth, you're new, right? Has he been here before?
He has been with us before. We also had Ann showed us for a little bit. Showed up for a little bit.
Who else is in here? All the usuals are here. The Nerd Herd just rocks it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with it. It's so much fun to hang out with you guys. Again, if you haven't done it, hit one of those thumbs up or thumb down buttons while you're here. That really, really helps us out. I know you guys are all subscribers already if you're here in the Nerd Herd and you're here in the chat. But yeah, absolutely hit one of those thumbs up while you're at it. And share a video with your friends and make some comments in auctions that you're following. For the cars that we made predictions on in particular, go in there. If I do it, I'll get flagged that they won't put it up. But if one of you guys go, "Hey, the bid nerds are talking about this car on YouTube," they'll leave it up. We can't do that. We need your help to get that done. So please do that, guys, because that helps out a lot. That gets a lot of exposure to the channel. The channel keeps growing because of you guys. And
JP and I are on the auction offenders list. We can't come within 400 yards of an auction house, but you guys can do it. You guys are all clean.
We're level 3 auction offenders.
We're in we show up outside of Bring a Trailer in a white panel van that says free bids.
Oh, all right. Speaking of needing a 12-step program, tomorrow night is Motor Club, Red Rock Motor Club at the Red Rock Country Club tomorrow night with our good friend Chef. Got Chef. Where's you got Chef above your shoulder there, Deeb, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there he is.
That's my other shoulder.
That's my trophy. That's my trophy from. That's my trophy that Rami threw off the stage and I caught it. The fact that I caught it means I won. It had nothing to do with my car or its condition in the Vegas Auto Fest of 2023. But since I drove all the way out to join you guys for JP, your awesome event. By the way, this year's Auto Fest was one for the books. I really think that was the best one yet. It was an outstanding event. The way the cars were curated, the quality of the cars, the number of the people, the weather, it was an epic day. It was super fun. Chris Carbine flew out and I got to meet Wade in person for the first time. That one really goes down in the record books for me. But the fact that I drove to Vegas for that, I wasn't leaving home without Chef. And so Chef looks over me like Switcher Jesus looks over you. I have Chef Jesus presiding over my studio to make sure we do good broadcast.
All right, guys. Well, that sounds like a show. Mental, where can we see your other podcast?
Catch me at Everyone Racers, just everyone.racers or Everyone Racers on all your social medias, where you get your podcast. Google Podcast is shutting down this year, so we'll be moving to YouTube Music like everybody else, or just plain old YouTube.
There it is, and Wade should probably be with us next week. He's at CES this week, and his channel is Tech Daily. So check him out there. He is quite the YouTuber. He's got stuff going on all over the place. That's why he's at CES. That's very relevant for him. I'll probably be popping over there this week. Check it out. All right, guys, join us on Wednesday live, 6:30. If we have our ish together, which we never do, but that's what we're trying for. 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. Tell your friends. We will see you guys Wednesday. Have a great week. That's it.
Hit the button.
Get those words!